Alright, let's get started. For Jagaaaaaan, chapters 8 through 19. Now, this took a while to do because I've been doing some other stuff, but let's get started. When we come back to Jagaasaki, we see that he's getting more used to his powers, and he says, well, he basically explains it's pretty easy for him to change his arm now. And Doku, after all the frenzied frogs are eaten, he can bring somebody back. And he also tells him that he should probably kill himself so he can eat all the frenzied frogs, because the last fractured warrior standing is going to have the last frenzied frog, so they would have to kill themselves if they wanted to get rid of all of them. Jagaasaki kind of says that he wants to bring his his girlfriend back, and I don't think it's gonna happen by the end of the series. Because I know a lot of stuff can most likely happen. Because he might do it, but I don't know if he will. We then transfer over to his friend that we saw at the wedding, Roba. Now, Roba, he stalks women, and he puts cameras in their house so he can look in on them, spy on them, like when they're naked or when they're having sex. And he is a very sad person, to say the least. I feel very sorry for him. Because he feels like he's going to die alone, and a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, Roba starting out is built up to be a sympathetic character, kind of, because he's still doing some really weird shit. But yeah. Then Jagaasaki meets another fractured warrior. Now, this new one, his name is Chiharu, and he has the power of basically plants or wood. And he is very overpowered compared to Jagaasaki. He is extremely strong, because he overpowered him very easily. And he tells him that he lives selfishly, and that's how the fractured humans kind of develop who they are. It's their selfish desires that kind of make them transform and make them give in to their, I guess, I don't know about primal instincts, but like just their desires in general. And he personally didn't like Jagaasaki at first, because he was telling him that he's doing all of this for somebody else, and Chiharu doesn't like those types of people that don't live for their own selfish desires. But he starts to like him again after listening to him and saying that Jagaasaki wants to die by his own merits. Then we go over back to Jagasaki's job, and we see he gets a new coworker. Koban is his name. And Koban, he's a little too happy-go-lucky for my taste, and he's always smiling. He looks a little creepy, I'll just say that. And nothing really happens with him so far. He's just a guy that works there. Now, Roba almost gets caught by a woman when he's setting up the cameras and stuff, and she comes in, and he hides in her closet, and he sees her crying, and he's wondering why. And once he does more investigating, he sees that she was kind of rejected by a guy that she likes. And Roba actually starts to become friends with her, and he falls in love with her, and they're pretty good friends, I'd say. They hang out a good amount of the time and talk and stuff like that. And it warmed my heart to actually see Roba going up and feeling better than what he was. Then we learn that Belle actually likes Jagaasaki, and she really likes him, and Jagaasaki can't believe what she's saying, and he doesn't really. At first, I don't think he really understands it, but once he thinks about it, he understands it better. And I'm looking forward to see how their relationship develops so far, because it's pretty good. I like it right now. Then we see over to a school where a mother is complaining about her son to his teacher and his principal. Now his principal, he was, I didn't like his principal, but he dies anyway by the mother turning into a fractured human, like a weird kangaroo person, which was kind of funny. And she was a very protective parent, which I guess it kind of makes sense. But then the teacher also transforms and kills her son and her at all in one go. And when Jagaasaki goes to investigate the whole incident, there's just hundreds of school students killed everywhere. It's a pretty gruesome sight, and the artwork was really good on the school in general and the fractured human. And we learned that this fractured human, he looks kind of like a alligator man, and he can regenerate, and whenever Jagaasaki shoots him, he always has limbs and stuff coming out where his flesh was when it got blown up. And eventually he gets huge, he's filling up a whole fucking hallway. And that, I liked, you guys know the page I'm talking about, but it was a really good spreadsheet, the whole image of that. And eventually Jagaasaki gets captured by him, and he gets, impaled on his teeth, and Jagaasaki starts having flashbacks to his childhood. And we learn why he started to become a police officer. And it's basically, he did it to protect people, and so he can feel more powerful and stronger than what he was. And I feel like there's still more to the backstory, to what happened, but they're not showing it to us right now. But I like his whole backstory and showing what he was. And once he started to remember, he started to feel more invigorated and stronger again. And we see Jagaasaki gets a new form. I guess I would call this the stage 2 to his stage 1 form. Because, of course, in his stage 1 form, all he can transform is his arm. But in stage 2 form, it kind of envelops his whole body. And we see him have, a whole bunch of different guns. You see him have, a revolver, a kind of rocket launcher, a Gatling gun, a lot of different types of guns. And it's really interesting to see him fight against it, because even though he's still shooting it and everything, it's still not doing much to hurt this. Well, hurting it, but it just keeps regenerating over and over again. Then we pause. Then they pause that and turn back over to Roba side, and we see that the girl that he liked, she comes back, and she has the guy that rejected her before, and they have sex. And of course, Roba, he starts freaking out. He sees this as cheating on him and betraying him, and his freak out, it kind of hurt me. And it ends the chapter off with a frenzied frog looking at Roba. Now, when we see this frenzied frog, it's not a fully developed one. We still see it has a tail, but it's more developed than the tadpole stage that's in Jagaasaki. So he transforms into something very, I guess, like Roba stage 2 form, instead of just starting at some kind of stage 1 form. And he goes to her after the guy leaves, and he starts kind of acting really weird, and she rejects him and starts telling him to get out or she'll call the police. So he starts pinning her against her bed and wrestling her to it, and he starts to transform. And his new transformation has his tongue transformed into this kind of really big I don't know what to call it, kind of tentacle thing, and he sticks it down her throat, and he releases pheromones or some kind of liquid into her, and she starts getting horny and wants to have sex with him. Now, Roba, he doesn't, I don't think he really notices what's happened to him at first, and he's more interested in him, having sex since he was a virgin. They parallel this really well with Jagaasaki now unlocking his second form, and we see a really good double page of both of their faces, and it's a really good parallel. But we go back to Jagaasaki and fighting the fractured human, and the news is actually getting all of this, and it's seeing what's happening with them. So I would say fractured humans and fractured warriors are now, known to the world, because you definitely can't really brush this off as some weird incident, or like computer generated or something like that. Then while they're fighting, Belle comes over, and she's about to be eaten by these fractured human, and she gets safe at Jagaasaki, but Jagaasaki gets his arm cut off, and his form starts to retract on itself. And while it's about to attack them, Chiharu comes in and kills it, and showing us again that Chiharu is extremely powerful. And I would say Chiharu is also in kind of a stage 2 of his transformation state, since the wood kind of envelops a majority of his body. And he takes over it pretty easily. But Jagaasaki faints, and Belle takes them back to Jagasaki's apartment. That's where I'll stop it here. That's up to chapter 18. I mean, what was it, chapter 19? I think, yeah, chapter 19. These chunk of chapters were actually really good at expanding everything, and we get to see how everything works. But make sure you guys subscribe, and I'll be looking forward to your comments down below. Alright, bye guys.